OKC, where's the wagon graphic with the horse's feet that don't move, Albin? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander accepting the MVP award. His teammates roaring their approval, and then he gets to work. Takes his time, never in a hurry. OKC up 6. Then it's SGA down low, spinning off glass. The lead is 8. The Wolves down 6. Yes, Anthony Edwards can bury threes, but you heard the broadcast. Richard and Doris talk about him getting downhill. Anthony Edwards so tough to stop. It's a 4-point game. Edwards again in the paint. Whole lot more paint work in this one as Edwards said he'd be more aggressive. Game 1, 18 points, had 16 in the half of this one. Late in the first half, it's a 3-point game. Shai makes it 5. And you heard Tim talk about how Minnesota had a chance to cut the lead to 1. Instead, Shai buries the 3. They had 2 more before the break. They lead by 8, and then the third quarter, they create the real separation. Float game, up off glass +1, 25+ in 6 consecutive playoff games. Tied for the longest streak of his career. Thunder up 9 after the made free throw. Next OKC possession. The man we just visited with a moment ago, Alex Caruso. That's fantastic. Lead is 11. On the other end, there are those hands on defense. Casey Wallace throw it up to the thin man. Chet Holmgren. He had a big game as well, and the building's on fire. It always is. Shai, always ice cold. Everybody calm down, keep your poise. Wallace gives to Holmgren. Frustration bubbling over on the Minnesota side as this one is slipping away. They trail by 22. They do stay in the fight, and after what we saw last night in the Garden, you never know. But Jalen Williams, who was sensational in this one as well, adds to his total. A few possessions later, it's down to 11. Another turnover off a deflection, and this actually is more costly than it would have been had Holmgren got the dunk, because Williams is able to get the bucket. He's fouled. He had 26. SGA ties his career playoff high with 38. It's a 2-0 series lead for the Thunder. They head back to Minneapolis. Game 3 on Saturday. Mark Daigneault after the win.
Special moment, to share with the fans. I mean, the fans that are here tonight, those are like iconic pictures in history of the league, and the fans get to enjoy that and acknowledge him. And it's an appropriate time to say that in these 2 games, as well as the rest of the games, but our fans were outstanding, put the wind at our back in these games, and we're going to continue to need them.
Coach,
Shai was good as always, but it sure seemed like Dub had an especially good game. How'd you look at him?
Yeah, I mean, he was really aggressive. He was efficient. I thought he chose the right spots to get to his spots and pull up, and chose the right spots to attack the basket, found good passes. I thought his floor game was very good, and he was very good again defensively. So a great night out of him, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, again, we didn't close the half very well. I thought if we closed the half better, then we don't put ourselves on such a razor edge in the third. Excuse me. We only had 6 turnovers at halftime. We had a few more in the third quarter. Missed some shots. Didn't finish at the basket, and then led to a bunch of stuff in early attack mode for them.
With the way these 2 games have played out, just what do you have to say to your guys, or what are you looking for going back home?
Every minute in the series is a chance to find something, so we're going to go back home. This is a good team at home, so we're going to go home and fight for game 3. I mean, heads up and look at the tape and get ready for game 3. So.
Randall's limited impact carried over from the second half of game 1 to basically the whole night tonight. What did you see from him, and why'd you go with Nas to close the
I mean, I just thought Nas has had a good game going. Just wanted to try to see if I can spread the floor and get some, quick decision making out there, and just trying to change the complexion of the game, So,
seemed like the offensive process was pretty good in the first half.
Yeah.
Did you see maybe deteriorate a little bit in the third?
Yeah, gotta look at the tape. I mean, I thought we missed. You know, there was a moment there when the game was kind of starting to get away from us, where I thought we missed some good shots. We had some good corner threes that we needed to knock down. We just didn't. Overall, we shot the ball well in the first half, didn't connect in much in the third. So,
yeah, early I just wanted to lean on my teammates. Like, I thought about like coming out and like forcing the first couple shots, but I was like, nah, it's probably not the way to go. I wanted to just let the game come to me. Like I said, lean on my teammates, play through them, play off of them. I think my first basket was like a back cut from Hart. So like I just didn't want to force the issue, let the game come to me. And then, yeah, I'm pleased with the way we guarded tonight. We held them to 100 points, I think. And obviously they're a really good offense. So yeah, we did the job defensively.
Andrew Schleck with The Athletic. J-Dub had 11 in the fourth quarter. You know, what did you see from him offensively and defensively tonight?
Yeah, stepping into his own, being confident, making big-time plays. I think we had like they were cutting back into the lead, and they had like a fast break. He got a steal and then an and one. That was like a huge play for the last couple of minutes. He's just coming into his own. And I knew this would happen. He's a great player, works hard, does the right things, and when you do that, good things happen for you.
It was about 4.5 minutes to go in the first half. You had 8 points, and then you went like a little bit of a run at the end. You had like an assist, a fadeaway over even Shinzo, a three, a couple of free throws. You had like 11 points in like the last 4.5 minutes. Was that conscious where you saw something or you felt like you want to be more assertive or whatever? Help you guys get an 8-point lead.
Yeah, not at all. I honestly just was out there playing basketball. Try to be aggressive, take my spots, try to make the right play. That's all that was. It wasn't intentional at all. Just try to close the half the right way. Closing quarters is so important, especially in close games and later in the season, the closer the game. So just want to take advantage of those moments.
Yeah, Shai, you've seen Lou put in the work year after year after year. He's been underappreciated year after year after year. What does it mean to you to see him finally get all defense first team?
Yeah, so happy for him. Nothing's made me happier this year in terms of our team. Like, Lou's been what he's been this year, his whole career, and for him to like finally get the recognition that he deserves is very special. And it's more impressive that like he just stuck with it throughout not getting it and just doing what's better for the team. He like diminished his role a couple years ago to do what's better for the team. Like he's just such a team first guy and puts that above all. To see him finally get some individual recognition for his hard work is very special.
Shai, how hard is it? I know you take one game at a time, but these games are coming fast and furious right now. How hard is it to not look at it and go, we're 6 wins from an NBA title?
Yeah, it's pretty easy. Like all season long, we've like got into a habit and built like the muscle of just like focusing on the next game and worrying about what's in front of us. And it's no different in this situation. We're aware of where we are in the season, but we'd be doing ourselves a disservice if we kind of veer from what got us here, and that's what we prioritize.
Shai, you once mentioned my whole life is consistent. When you think about the younger teenage Shai, how proud of you are of that younger Shai that got you to that point of hoisting up the trophy tonight?
Yeah, I'm very proud. I'm glad he never gave up. I'm glad he listened to the right people, and I'm glad for those people giving me that advice that they did throughout the years. They know who they are, and I'm very appreciative.
Tim Legler joins me now, and Tim, it's a two-pronged thing with the Thunder, right? They throw haymakers on offense, and they're relentless on defense. I want to start on the offensive end and their ability to take what's a close game and just have it explode. And I mentioned the patience and the pace of SGA. How critical is it that they never seem to be in a hurry with him as the guy that is the lead of that?
Yeah, and Scott, I thought in game one, Minnesota actually did a really good job in the first half and how they guarded him. He worked very hard for what he got in the first half of that game, and then he got loose on him in the second half. He started this game in a great rhythm. He was not sped up at all. He was getting to his spots on the court. You saw the mid-range come out earlier in game two. He didn't hit those until the third quarter of game one. So I thought the rhythm was important, and you're right. It's these runs that they hit you with. You have to be most careful against them closing quarters and the start of the second half. And if you go look at the end of that second quarter, Minnesota down 3, Anthony Edwards driving to the rim with about 35 seconds to go. He converts. It's a 1-point game. Get a stop. You go in down 1. Instead, miss the shot. Before you know it, OKC has now turned that into 5 additional points before the half. You go in down 8. It just feels a lot different after the half you just played, and that's what OKC does too. Most of it is triggered by their defense. It creates numbers in the open floor, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the ultimate hammer in the half court. When things do slow down and you've got to have someone break down that defense and collapse it, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as good as we have in this league right now.
It's not quite Boston against the Knicks the first 2 games. Level of futility from 3. It's good. Might take a while, I hope, for someone to be worse than 25 for 100. But it's 26 for 90 from 3 for Minnesota in 2 games. The OKC defense is nasty. But how much of this is just Minnesota struggling from beyond the arc from what you've seen?
Well, yeah, the number on the open shots they missed in the first game was really alarming. They actually missed more open shots than contested shots in the first game. In particular, their supporting cast, Dante DiVincenzo, Naz Reid, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, 7 for 36 combined in game 1. It's one of the worst collection of shooting trios we've seen in a postseason game ever. They were better tonight. At least Dante DiVincenzo was. Naz Reid still struggling a little bit. Nickeil Alexander-Walker was pretty good. But now it goes back to now the stars. Anthony Edwards, game 1, not very aggressive, held in check. Julius Randle was great. Game 2, Anthony Edwards much more aggressive, certainly had his fingerprints on this game. Julius Randle nowhere to be found. And a lot of it had to do with the defense they were playing on him with smaller guys. It frustrated him. They could not make post entries to him because he was getting fronted the entire game. The lob over the top of that was not available because of the way OKC rotates to the weak side. So you had their stars now have not played well in the same night. 3-point shooting very inconsistent. You add all that up. Minnesota far below the level that we saw them through the first 2 rounds. And look, some of that's them. A whole lot of it is OKC and how good that team is defensively.
Now, I'm going to reference Boston in a more positive way, something you and I talked about a lot last year. The Celtics showed us all season last year that that's who they were. They beat people to death, double-digit wins over and over. Mike Breen mentioned on the way out, this is the 60th game, 6-0, that they won by double figures. You know, the competition is increasing, and OKC is not hesitating at all. This is just who they've been all year. Is there anything that gives you an indication that that's going to slow down in the remaining however many games there are in the Western Conference Final?
Not really. I said I was doing the alt-cast as we went off the air, I said not all 2-0s are created equal. This one feels a little heavier than some because of how dominant Oklahoma City's defense has been. And you could see the frustration on the part of Minnesota. You know, and this is the thing. You can keep them in check yourself defensively. Minnesota has been a good defensive team in the regular season, even better in the postseason. The problem is they wear on you over time. And at some point, you do, as we say, let go of the rope a little bit. And if you do that a little bit against this team, they take a game that's 6 and they turn it into 15. And now it's completely uphill the rest of the way. Look, they won 68 games for a reason. They're deep. They have an awful lot of want to. They've got more guys that are committed to high-level defense than any other team in the league. And they've got a superstar to build their offense around. Man, this is a complete team, extremely well coached. It's going to take a lot. Look, you don't say that any team's out of a series before they've played a home game, but Minnesota has an awful lot of work to do to figure out how to close the gap with this team.
Michael Malone joins us now, and this is a treat to be able to do this way. I appreciate you taking the time. And I visited with Alex Caruso after the game, and I talked about charting deflections, and obviously this team is as good as any in terms of doing that. But on a night like tonight, Michael, I'm interested in what you saw from Minnesota and how much their inability to be sharp executing might have conspired in their own demise to some degree. Is that a correct read?
Well, you know, you look tonight, I felt in the first half they were more aggressive. Their bench was better. They got into the paint. They got out and ran. Scott, it was tied at 45 with around 4 minutes to go in the second quarter. And then OKC is able to close that half on a 13-5 run, taking an 8-point lead. And then that gives them the momentum they need. This is the second game in a row where the third quarter has been the deciding quarter. They've outscored Minnesota by 14 in both those quarters. And tonight it was 5 turnovers in that third quarter that fueled their break. OKC had 8 fast break points in that quarter alone. You're showing clips here of Alex Caruso knocking down threes. They are so disruptive. And you can see right here, every time they got a steal, forced a turnover, that fueled their break. And in this building, in front of this crowd, you can't do that. You cannot beat yourself and your opponent in the same game. They're going to have to go home and find a way in game 3, 1, to find a way to take care of the ball, and 2, Julius Randle was a DNP in that fourth quarter. Can they find a way to get Julius Randle going? Because tonight, Shai, the MVP, Chet Holmgren, and Jalen Williams contributed at a high level. Julius Randle is going to have to do the same to give Minnesota some life when they go back to the Target Center.
We understand that with a great player, and Shai, the MVP, is obviously that, there's no such thing as stopping. You could try to limit, you could try to contain to some degree. So slowing him down is really, really difficult to do. You're familiar with that. As you watch him at his own pace, on his own time, do his thing, what stands out about what makes him so efficient, Michael?
Well, one, you talk about the free throw line. You know, during the regular season, he got there around 8.5 times per game. And then you look in game 1 and game 2, he gets to the foul line, I think, 15 times tonight. You can't let a guy like that get to the foul line over and over. You have to be more disciplined. You have to show your hands. And because that allows them to set the #1 defense in the regular season, in the playoffs, and control the tempo. The second part of that, Scott, I think is really important. He looked so comfortable tonight. He was getting downhill. He was coming off the high pick and roll, snaking, living in the paint. Here you can see he's guarded by Jaden McDaniels, knocked down a contested 3, but he's in a rhythm by this point. Here he just dribbles baseline. We know he's a great mid-range shooter, shoots over Dante DiVincenzo. If I'm Chris Finch, if I'm the Minnesota Timberwolves, I'm finding a way to be more aggressive and not let him get so easily to his spots, so easily to that mid-range shot. Minnesota used quite a bit of zone tonight. I think they can get a little bit more aggressive with him, make him give the ball up early, and make him work that much harder, because he had 38 tonight, and it was a really calm, cool, and collected 38 points.
Michael, there might be a more subtle way to ask this question, but I don't want to try to hide it. I want to ask it directly. What do you think? What do you think of the whistle that he gets?
Favorable. You know, I think that's an easy way to put it. Obviously, you watched the last series against Denver.
So
I
how
was
do you
on
guard
with
him?
McAfee this morning, and I told Pat,
how do you guard
well, I
him?
tell you what, you got to be ultra disciplined. Yeah, it's almost impossible. You think about trying to guard the best offensive players in the league nowadays, it becomes almost impossible. Any contact, a lot of times offensive players like Shai will initiate the contact, will hook his arm, looking to draw that contact. He is a foul artist, as I mentioned earlier today. So discipline, and you're hoping that the referees read how the game is being whistled. If they're allowing you to be a little bit more aggressive, you can do that. But once again, he's been living at the foul line. 14 free throw attempts game 1, 15 tonight. That's not going to get it done.
Big picture, though, about this Oklahoma City team. Look, they were the 1 seed a year ago, and they fell short. But now, as they grow, we've seen this, like, I think back in the day, our older viewers are going to remember, you know, Detroit couldn't get through Boston. Chicago couldn't get through Detroit. It's all part of a process of learning it. Maybe the league is different now, but there's some still amount of taking your lumps and growing. What's different about this team this year, Michael, than we've seen in years past as you watch the Thunder?
Well, and I agree with that assessment, Scott. We went through that in Denver, trying to get through teams, trying to losing to the Lakers in the bubble in the Western Conference Finals. And you have to go through those trials and tribulations. You have to have that defeat, and every great player has had to go through that. And Shai and these Thunder are no different. They lost last year. They've come back. And they've been focused all year long. What they did this year, winning 68 games, they're 7-1 at home. Their net rating is historical in nature, and it's even improved in the postseason, where you're supposedly playing against the best teams in the NBA. They have continuity. They have belief. They have a great player. Mark Daigneault is a hell of a coach. He and his staff do an outstanding job. And I think they hang their hat on defense. I mean, this team, historically speaking, is one of the best defensive teams that I've ever seen. They make life hell for you. They make you work for everything. And that's where the Minnesota, as they go home, they're going to have to find ways to crack that defense, to get Julius Randle going. Anthony Edwards did his job tonight. The bench was much better tonight. Jaden McDaniels had a good game. Julius Randle, Mike Conley, Rudy Gobert, those guys have to give them something. And I've seen it happen. These guys are more than capable of going home in front of their crowd, come game 3.